need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me. You can say hello, but I don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me. You can watch me go, cause I don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me. You can say hello, but I don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me. You can watch me go, cause I don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me. You can say hello, but I don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me. You can watch me go, cause I don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me, don't need you to like me.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hopefully yous are all doing well. Loving FPL. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hopefully yous are all comfortable. Good afternoon and welcome to that FPL Game Week. This is already episode 38 of our Ask the Manager series already. The series whereby we get to know some FPL managers from various avenues of our FPL community and a wee bit better. We will get to know tonight's guest a lot more just shortly, but if you have anything that you want to pose this evening, do drop them in the chat and we'll try and get through as many questions as we possibly can within the next hour or so. Any links to socialise with us if you wish are all within the description, so feel free to socialise alongside Buna and I and this evening's guest all over Twitter, etc. As you know though, I can't do these shows all on my own. Please welcome the guy that has taken an hour out from massaging Zaha's groin. It's our very own Buna. Hiya, pal. You alright?
Fuck you. I'm good, mate. Thank you. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
You alright?
Yeah. What a
Brilliant.
couple of days we've had, and then we've got another belting one this evening.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting week, hasn't it, in the world of FPL and FPL Twitter.
I know. And we've got a lot to talk about as well with our guest this evening. So let's not keep him back any longer, and let's get him in, shall we? Yeah.
Let's do it, mate. Let's do it. Are you going to bring up the screen so that we can see Tom's reaction, or?
Yeah, we'll give it a bash, shall we? There we go.
Be careful with your words there, mate.
we do it instantly now. Look at that. Look, it's all there. It's working straight from the get-go. This evening, as you know, you can see him now. We have a gem of a guy and a decent FPL manager to boot, with a few top 100k finishes and even a top 3k finish in there as well. He's part of what an amazing setup it is. As you all know, who got the assist? This evening we are joined by Tom. Unfortunately, Nick and Stag cannot be here, but we have the better looking one in beside us this evening. Love you lots, Nick. Love you lots, Stag. If you don't know, these guys are leaders within our FPL circles with their weekly podcasts, blog posts, and various podcast appearances. If you're not already checking them out, you know what to do. Please do start now. Stats. 43.9 thousand followers on Twitter, over 65,000 across all three of their accounts. Millions of minutes have been listened to across their various podcast avenues. Mesut Ozil once quote jokingly in 2016 that the first English word that he ever learnt was assist. So tonight, folks, please give a loud FPL Game Week welcome as we get to know Tom a bit better and maybe even find out who did get that assist. Evening, Tom. How are you?
Hello, mate. That's a very, very nice introduction. Very, very, very kind of you, Lama. Good FPL manager. That's definitely something that's fallen off a cliff in the last few years. Since WGTA actually started, I've become absolutely terrible. But I am able to do a podcast. So, you know, one thing that has gone badly, one thing has gone fairly well, as you said in the numbers. And it still overwhelms me to this day. And you've actually bothered to tune in to listen to me rattle on about fantasy football.
Away, man. You're one of the first ones. When I got into FPL a few seasons ago, it was, you know, yourself. You were one of the first kind of podcasts that I got into. So I was excited to get you on this evening, obviously. So thank you very much for joining us. Buna, do you want to just get kicked straight into the community questions? Because I know that you were inundated on Twitter. I've seen your WhatsApp group again, and it's littered with questions for Tom this evening. In chat, I am not ignoring you. Good evening to you all, and welcome, and thank you for joining us. Any questions you have, please do pop them in, and I'll get through as many as I can. But Buna, I'll let you kick us off this evening. Thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll give a shout out, which we didn't do on Tuesday. Apologies,
we
to
didn't.
have joined us today. We've got Mel in the chat. We've got John, our moderator, in the chat. We've got Natasha joining us. Eddie Foray, hope you're doing well. We've got Anand, I'm thinking, from FPL Escapades in the chat. We've got Evan Chowdhury, FPL Safa. We have got GK16 joining us in the chat, and Sam Pile too. So welcome, everyone. Hope you're all doing very, very well and looking forward to the disaster for Triple Game Week that looms. So... Yeah, without further ado, Tom, you know, let's get to know you a little bit better. Let's understand how you first got into FPL and how long you've been playing the game.
Well, I've been playing FPL for, I think I started playing like kind of stupidly at uni, like just with my kind of couple of flatmates, and didn't really have any idea of a strategy or anything behind it. You know, we were just every week taking, you know, like -20s, -24s, just to beat each other basically. So you can see it's all on my history, like millions. And then I got my first job, and then when I was there, everyone was playing in little mini league, or everyone that I was kind of mates with anyway. Like that was a chat down the pub, and I kind of got involved with that. And I think kind of the first couple of seasons, it was just kind of beginner's luck, plus kind of looking at Fantasy Football Scout, the stats on there, and a few other kind of stat sites, and just to get a little edge on the people in that mini league. And I kind of won that a couple of years in a row. And that it really got me hooked, because as soon as you start winning, that's where the fun kind of lies, isn't it? When you're like, oh, I'm actually really good at this. And then if you look at like the ranks, you're kind of like, oh my God, I'm in the top 0.001% of the world. That is absolutely banging. I'm fucking amazing at this stuff. So that's what really got me into FPL, really. Just having those kind of few couple of years, the Yaya year, for example, where he was just really good. Had in my team from game week 2, I think it was, and kind of captained in most weeks. Like stuff like that now probably wouldn't do it anymore. I'd be swayed this way and that. But back then didn't know any better and just did what I thought looked best to win my mini league, and that's where it all came from, really.
Nice one. So obviously, who got the assist? So how long have you known the guys, and like how did that formation form itself? How did that all come about, mate?
All right. Well, there's a couple of intro pods out there that you can listen to. Long story short, me and Nick have been good friends since secondary school, so we've known each other for many, many years. Anthony, we actually met on FPL Twitter. We had him on for a couple of podcasts. Well, this guy's all right. Then I popped off to Australia for 2 months at the start of last year before COVID, and we got him on board kind of just to kind of cover me. But I was really kind of thinking, oh, this might benefit us to have another sort of voice in the room, because Nick and I have known each other for so long that it was a bit kind of like sometimes the banter didn't really work as well, because a lot of the banter was very niche based on us knowing each other for a long time. So it was good to have that external sort of person in the dynamic, and it works really well, I think, having the three of us. So that's kind of how we kind of came to be as we are. So it's 5 years now, I think it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Or is it? No, it's not up to the 4th year. 2017, 18. Yeah. So been going for a little while.
No, good stuff. Buna?
Brilliant. Well, prior to FPL, I mean, I don't really like this question. I'd rather rephrase this and ask, what do you do outside of FPL? Obviously, FPL, you spend your fair bit of time on that during the week, doing your podcast, then active on Twitter. But outside of that, what do you get up to?
I work. I've got quite a kind of a busy job in financial services. Boring. No one really cares about that. I'm an avid gamer, so I'm between games actually, but I love an RPG. Like I love playing. I'm avid Football Manager addict, or former one. I play a lot of Hearthstone as well. I've just completed. I've just completed a few games actually. The most recent one was one called Kingdoms of Amalur, which is again a ridiculous high fantasy RPG. So a very, very nerdy stuff basically all around. And if anyone follows me on Twitter, you'll know that I like my beer as well. One of those great healthy things I got into in the lockdown. So I work out every day just to keep myself sane, because I wasn't able to go out basically for a year due to my kind of prior health history. But that's countermanded by starting to love beer. Like I really got into craft beer this year. So yeah, I'm glad I've got a girlfriend, because otherwise, God, fancy football, beer, and gaming, ladies form an orderly queue.
No, that's very similar to us, or certainly me anyway. Apart from the keeping fit, but I need to. I've got the COVID curves. That's what I like to call them. So I need to kind of try and reduce them down a little bit. When it comes to your FPL though, would you say? I mean, do you you must put a lot of hours into that, or are you maybe not putting in as much as you used to? How does it work out for you?
I mean, I used to do like lots of blogs and stuff. I don't do that as much anymore, to be honest, just because I couldn't keep up with the paid sort of providers. I like writing, but to be honest, like work started eating into that time that I had. Like when I started, when Nick and I started, in fact, he just had he didn't have a kid yet, and it was kind of just like two guys with girlfriends. I just kind of doing nothing. We had loads of time in front of us, and suddenly Nick's wife got pregnant, so a lot of the load fell on me. And then so I was writing for a little bit, but then after a while, I kind of just regressed back to just being a podcast. How much time do I spend on it every week? Like I think it just kind of occupies my mind a little bit. Like I would speak to people a bit on Twitter and DMs. I don't tweet as much as I used to anymore. I think the first couple of years I was tweeting like And a lot of the time on my little Slack as well, you know, like there's a big group of us, a big group of friends, and that we've met through FPL, and also just kind of home friends, just chatting about it on that. That's kind of where a lot of it lies, just kind of having that conversation, the drip feed that gets you through the week.
Yeah, I mean, as you'll know, Tuesday we had Mark and Az on, and by the sounds of like yourself, very much the same as Boona and I, what an opportunity it would be for us all to get together. And Mark obviously, you know, aired his views on Tuesday's show, which was great. And we know how volatile, I suppose, especially you, Boona, you know how volatile the whole Twitter sphere can be. But yeah, Tom, do you want to add anything into that with regards to the kind of festival towards the end of this? Well, August.
I mean, I did know about it. I didn't know the ins and outs, but I knew about it from beforehand. Yeah. I'm not going to knock someone for innovation. I'm aware lots of work has gone into it, which is really cool, you know. But I think fundamentally, as we saw from the train wreck, the dumpster fire on earlier this week, they pitched it all wrong. Like, I was surprised to learn that no one's ever run events in summer or Christmas before, because I have and Planet FPL have. You know, okay, mine was just in a pub, but we've done it over the last couple of years. And I think one of the biggest secrets of the FPL events is that actually barely anyone goes there to talk about FPL. I don't know if either of you have actually been to one.
Boona, I've not been to any. I think Boona's been to a couple.
I've not been to one actually. I've been to a Scout charity tournament.
Oh, is that what? Oh, right, okay. Right. Sorry, yeah.
So people go there actually just to chat shit and meet like-minded people. Like only 10% of the chats I have at FPL events are actually about FPL. And like, I'm sure you wouldn't agree if you don't agree with what I'm saying, you may write me off as being kind of small-minded, but like, I just felt it was pitched all wrong. Like, I recognise the model completely. It's a corporate event. Like corporate events that I've been to, you know, at corporate events, you're paying to network with useful contacts, at least in my world. And you're meeting the heads of business, getting access to people you wouldn't otherwise be able to chat with. There's something more substantial about, you know, paying to meet the CEO of a major corporation, or, you know, getting to mingle with special guests like famous doctors or some celebrity. But I think the way it was marketed as meet the creators, that creates like a tier system of being that I really dislike. It's like the expert thing that OFPL use, because it creates classes of people that I just don't agree with. Like, I respect what they've done and I respect them as people. I don't want to start a beef or anything, because I think that's just, I'm merely stating my opinion.
No, exactly.
I obviously didn't agree with some of the ad hominem name calling from the other day. That took it too far. But it's just FPL, you know, and FPL content creation at the end of the day isn't managing a multi-million pound hedge fund. Like, we started doing this, sitting around my kitchen table. A big part of who I am is keeping your feet on the ground. And thinking people should pay to meet you is at best naive and at worst horribly arrogant. But I'm sure that's not how it was intended to be presented.
No.
But that's been presented to me how it came across.
Yeah, and
Twitter as a community, not as a community, but as a consumer base. Like, I have no problem people earning money from FPL. I choose not to do so myself. But this felt like naked profiteering to me, especially that kind of rightly parodied VIP ticket, which is the climb down from that was hilarious. And it just felt a bit crass for the reasons I've mentioned. You know, like Patreon subscriptions, these things are earned by loads of people out there. But as I said, this was marketed all wrong. It was a fait accompli. You know, it was just like, here's a venue, we'll get some content creators. You're betters, you know, you come along, you sheeple, and you pay them. When you pay to meet them, it just didn't really work for me.
I think, sorry, Tom, I think, like, on that, I mean, you know, Mark and Az did definitely, you know, it was like they held their hand, well, you know, Mark had held his hand up and said, you know.
They completely did. And I completely doing that, and I hope that they learn from it, and I completely respect the fact he did front up on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But it felt like an avoidable car crash, and because everything that did happen, you could have anticipated, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe it cut open how different people view FPL and the opportunities it provides. Simply put, like it's not like I just don't think that corporate sort of model really fits onto the FPL. Maybe I'm wrong, and I wish them all the best with it. But I'd say watch this space for a free event over the summer for those who don't fancy paying, because there's more than one way to run the event. And I just think that was, I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me, basically.
Okay, no, and obviously everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's what it's all about, and that's why we got together to put this show out. You know, right back at the start, we wanted to get to know managers, not necessarily the stats and everything that are involved in FPL, because we're all people at the end of the day, so we wanted to just get to know the manager, if that makes sense, you know. So as you rightly say, that's your view on it. I think the impression that I got after Tuesday's show, or during Tuesday's show, after Tuesday's show, was that, yeah, we've made a mistake here on how it was kind of marketed out the way, but we're now getting together to kind of clash heads again, and, you know, this is what, you know, and then something will come out, I would imagine, within the next few weeks, and it'll probably be presented in a completely different way. So I think that, like what you say, it's known when you've made an error, and I suppose how you address that error. I've seen it very much like the golf shows that I've attended in years gone by, very much kind of similar to that. You know, and I'm sure the way, well, Mark obviously wouldn't go into much more detail, but I'm pretty certain there'll be a lot more other things in the back burner to go into
that's
it.
What I got out of
So
it.
I think
there were other things. I think there were other things planned, but I think they were slightly premature in the actual marketing off it and what it actually entailed. Because off air, you know, there were other conversations that we had in terms of what the plans were and what the thoughts were. And I do think if those were transmitted and kind of, you know, conveyed in the message when it was put out, then maybe it would have been received slightly differently. But at the end of the day, I think they've you know, fessed up and seen that, you know, they've clearly made a mistake, and then tried to do something about it. Let's see how it goes from there, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a question here, Tom, that we ask all our managers, but actually one of your pals, Late Riser, who's actually joined us in the chat, already posted Boona a question. You want to pose the question to Tom, Boona?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just bring it up. Bear with me.
That's all right.
Put me off guard here. Yeah, so Late Riser said, looking forward to this one. Question for Tom on the stream. A lot of the times I get the feeling he's naturally a maverick who's a little bit of a dullard convert. What are his thoughts on his own managerial style?
I'm just shit, aren't I, really?
Oh, wait, man. You seen my ranks?
It doesn't matter. The last 4 years, I've been absolute crap. That's like saying, like Man United used to be good.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, like, I think there's definitely some truth in what Pranil was saying there, just because I think I've been subsumed by the Twitter zeitgeist so much. Like, I don't post as much that often these days, but I read stuff, I listen to stuff just to help me pass the time in some ways, actually. And I think I end up internalizing so much crap from other people. Some people are really fantastic at filtering all that out. But what I find is that there's a death loop of me wanting to find more information and learn more and absorb more. But actually, that means that I lose what I like and what I think. And especially when you look at things like effective ownership, and if you look at things like kind of, you know, the herd mentality idea. Yeah. And too often this year too often over the last few years, actually, I've kind of either made a really bad gamble, or I've kind of come away from a game week thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, like I thought about doing that and I just didn't do it because I was worried about, you know, the downside of what happened. And I think every year I say to myself, you know what, I'm going to play it better this year. I'm going to play it, you know, I'm going to play it how I want to play it. And for whatever reason, just through being kind of part of the community, being like cognizant of what's going on around me, I feel that I'm less able to do that. I mean, there are those people like FPL General, Adam Hopcroft, who famously said, you know what, no, I'm fucking it all off this year. I'm just not going to be part of the FPL community. I'm just not going to chat with anybody. I'm leaving all the group chats. And fair enough, maybe that's what I should do, but I do enjoy it. Yeah. And it does keep my brain going, you know? And so maybe there's a compromise I need to make there. I'm not entirely sure what I do next, actually, whether I kind of try to get involved with some sort of heavy gambling style or just kind of break some sort of strategy next season for myself. I don't know. But
would you look to take your gaming any further? Would you look to take your gaming any further onto YouTube and the like?
Oh God, no! I can't be asked for that. Come on, I've got problems. Like I don't. Yeah, that's, you know. This is all. It comes back to what I was saying about Fest as well. This is all a hobby for me. Like I do it for fun. Yeah. And the moment it stops being fun, I stop. And so that's the reason we haven't monetized, because I don't want customers. I want listeners and people who voluntarily give me their time. And like it's the same for me with fantasy football. Like if I'm frustrated with it. I get angry with it, but I'm I've never got to the point, and you can see it kind of hilariously, embarrassingly on Twitter. I'm done. I'm out of here. It's all over for me. Oh, the season's done.
I think
They'll get 13 points, and they're like, oh, actually, I'm back. Like,
I think
I'm at that point.
I think Buna might have made that kind of comment maybe about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. But no, Buna and I are very similar to you, Tom, with that regard. We, together alongside Matthew, and a few of the guys that are in the chat just now as moderators and Discord members, we've said all along that, you know, family, friends, all come first. Work, you know, has to come first. And it's kind of like the slogan, I suppose, if the fun stops, stop. You know,
yeah,
so
it's just fucking frustrating when you put so much time into the game, even though it is only a game, and it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
It's so annoying.
Like, I think mentally over like the first year we did it, like I put so much pressure on myself to do well, and I didn't go well. Second year, yeah, I mean, it started to kind of get really. I did find it quite difficult to be like podcasting and being like, yeah, so another week of getting 50. What did you get, Nick? Oh, I got 85, so I'm in the top 10k now. And I'm just like, oh, fuck you. I just top 100.
yeah.
You know, and after a while, like, I have mentally kind of distanced myself a little bit from it, like, and that kind of allows me to just take stock and not like when I get annoyed. I do get annoyed. I'm only human, but that annoyance lasts about 5 minutes now, whereas I used to ruin my weekend. And I think maybe it's still getting older. Like when I started, I was 26, 27, and I was getting, you know, really pissed off. You know, like that weekend's over if my captain blanks by 4:45 on a Saturday. But now if my captain blanks, it's kind of like, well, I made the right decision, I think, or you know, I can see why that's not happened. All right, I'll be pissed off for a little bit, but I'll keep it to myself, and by the evening, I tend to be all right. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of like my missus does that. She just grounds me that way. You know, she'll be like, "Oh, is your little team done shit this weekend, Stevie?" Yep, right. Well, remember, it's just a game.
Comment from Late Rise in the chat. Tom and Words, such a good match.
The things, like, as you say about Twitter, and Buna, and a lot of people know this as well, Tom, but I'll tell the others again, I'll tell you for the first time. When Buna and I first kind of got involved in FPL, or certainly me anyway, I think Buna had been playing it a few more seasons than I had when I first kind of got to meet this guy. I was just over 300 in the world overall rank. Then I started getting involved more in Twitter, got involved more, and I mean knee-deep in stats. I finished 33,000th, I think, that year. But up until I got consumed by everything that was there and went, as you described, like into almost that, oh shit, the fear of missing out. You know, Buna, you know, I see Buna's got this guy, he's played it longer. I don't really fancy him, but if he's doing it, I better do it or I'm going to miss out. And that my season just, like you say, it just nosedived. You know,
An interesting one. Like Mark commented on that, saying how being back in the public eye and having that pressure and having, you know, not necessarily, you know, the overcrowding of information, but that too, to some extent, actually helps his performance. So I guess it's individual in some ways how you take information in and what you do with it, isn't it?
I suppose. I mean, I think that's the thing, and we know Wiz says it all the time. You know, you've got to play your own game, but it does get hard, I must admit. And that's, I can see some of the comments already about Triple Man United, and that's one of the things that I know we've spoke about before, Buna and Tom. I know you guys will have chatted about it. Sometimes with double game weeks, and in this occasion we've got a triple game week, you know, you overlook the easy games.
How serious people get about it, though. Amount of people on Twitter and in this live chat that are like, how can you go without Bruno? How can you not have, like, Triple Man United, like, in your team? Like, back in the day, I probably would have been similar, but I feel like, I don't know if it's because I've been so shit that I've given up, or it's because... just because I genuinely have taken kind of step back a little bit, and I don't take it as seriously. And like Tom said, you know, maybe matured a little bit in that extent and got a little bit older as well, that I don't get too bothered by it. But I don't know how people can have that mindset. You know, people literally shit themselves if they don't have a certain player. And I think that's that point that I'm glad to say I don't think like that no more. I'm not too bothered.
See, that's a good position to be in. But as Tom was saying, it can be very hard to get into that position. You know, if you're constantly on Twitter, or you're constantly, you know, reviewing a lot of, like, just basically getting yourself knee deep involved in it, you can easily talk yourself out of what you thought about at the start, and just get persuaded by what everybody else is up to. So you just forget about what your plan was and follow everybody else's almost, because you've got that fear in you. But it is a good position, Bruno. If you're in that position, and I think, Tom, you're saying you're either there or getting there, then you can just leave it, you know? I'm just going to go with my gut play.
Been there for the last 4 years, dude.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, what is your gut? Does that even exist? My gut tells me I'm hungry. It doesn't tell me what my FPL decision is going to be. Like sometimes I just feel like, okay, people like obviously like to back their own decision making, and to that fear point, you'll see all the time on Twitter, like people will be like, oh yeah, I'm backing this guy because over the last 4 weeks he's done this. You look at the last 4 weeks, who have they played? The 4 crappiest teams in the division, and you're like, okay, is that realistic? Like, you know, in my real life, I'm a researcher, so a lot of the time I look at the numbers people spiel out, or a lot of the analysis people do, and just think it's laughable, to be honest. But you know, I'm not doing very well at FPL, and some of these people are doing fantastically. So, you know, maybe I am the one who is wrong. But yeah, there's definitely that with kind of the mass think, especially when things comes to things like captain poll, important captaincy, and all of our in all of our fortunes. The liability for you to fall into the trap of being like, you know what, I'm going to go against the mass captain is just it doesn't happen as often. I think you will see that there's kind of this herd thing that goes on, and often you miss out on the times when you weren't thinking about it as much.
Yeah. When
you weren't aware of these things. But I'm sure you're the same, Lama. When you were doing really well, you weren't aware that X% of Twitter were all going to go with this captain. You were thinking, you know what, I'm going to go with this guy because he's got a great fixture. He's doing all right. Everyone's on Bruno Fernandes. Well, I wouldn't know that everyone's on Bruno Fernandes. I'm just going to go with, you know, Harry Kane. Oh, I've got a hat trick, and everybody else has got a blank. Well, brilliant. There goes my rank upwards.
Yeah, that's exactly. No, you've summed it up. That's exactly how it was. I was, and this, I suppose this, Boona, probably brings us on to the next question, Tom. I don't know if you would agree or not, but see the way, just with the unfortunate circumstances that we've been in for the best part of, like, you know, what is it, a year and a bit? We're getting football almost daily. You know, I don't know about you. I certainly liked, you know, a soccer Saturday, so to speak. You know, where you've got whatever 7-8 games.
I miss
all
match of the day.
Yeah.
I don't watch it anymore.
No, yeah, exactly. And so I don't know if that's a factor in it as well, because it's everything's spread out over the whole week, and it's like Groundhog Day. It just an FPL game week just gets into, you know what I mean? It just rattles on. So I don't know if that's affected anything or anyone since this whole Blovid thing happened. You know, there's just so much football on now.
I think it's definitely contributed to the FPL fatigue we're seeing, because like basically, I think I said this a few times on our podcast as well. You'll have, if it was all the 3 PMs, the Soccer Saturday, as you put it, then if something bad happens, you've almost always got something else to say. Crap, I lost that clean sheet in the last minute, but at least I also got a last minute assist, or at least I also got a goal from this guy earlier on. So it kind of counterbalanced it.
Yeah.
What you find with this is that unless you get ridiculously, outlandishly lucky, most of the time what you do is each game that you've got players in, unless it goes well for you, like, there's nothing to kind of soften the blow if something doesn't go your way.
Yeah.
So stuff like, you know, losing those Fulham clean sheets not very long ago, or stuff like, you know, losing Tyreek Mitchell's clean sheet a little while ago, earlier on in the season. I think Fulham scored in like the 92nd minute or something like that. Like, those things hurt a lot more and a lot more raw. And as the fatigue grows over the course of the season, you can see why people kind of think, oh, you know, I've overdosed on football a bit. And I've been like that myself. Like, I've just kind of struggle to, it's almost like a chore watching some football, and there are loads of games that I just frankly don't watch anymore. Like, I used to want to watch every game, and it was such a novelty to sit to say, oh my gosh, I can see every game, wow, this is great. Okay, no one's going to sit there and watch Wolves versus Burnley, but, like, you know, you can watch every game that mattered. But even now, like, you know, and some of the bigger games, like Man United, for example, 0-0ing every top 6 game that they can. Like, even those games to start to become a bit more difficult. Like, I found myself, for example, watching Leeds this year, and a lot of teams properly go for it because those games are a lot more exciting than sitting through that and being a bit of Mourinho snooze fest as well. Like a lot of the time, that was just impossible to watch the dive football. I'm sure the same for you as well, to be fair.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm an Arsenal fan, but yeah, no, it's, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, there's
some of the
every silver lining.
But yeah, no, I think it definitely is, and I think it's definitely the kind of needing to be always on when it comes to football definitely permeates FPL as well. I think it definitely is permeated, like I posted this week on Twitter about it. Like it's definitely permeated how people kind of have gotten a lot more kind of touchy with each other, just due to the fact we're all indoors all the time. You know, we're all online beings now, and like people take it so much more seriously. You know, I was just, oh no, I've been seriously offended by this. You know, and really, if you sit down, take a step back and think, should I really give a fuck about all this? Nah, it's just FPL. But because you're online all the time, it becomes so much more meaningful. And because it's going and going and going, there's so much more commentary. Whereas before, we could all kind of go, right, Monday, I'm off. See you later. I'll be back on Thursday or Friday. Whereas now, there's football every single day. You're commenting every single day. You're thinking about it every single day.
Yeah.
You need a break. I'm looking forward to it. There's no break in summer.
No, you're totally right. I mean, like some of the boys and girls that we've got in our Discord are looking to do like the Euro fantasy football, and I've said, look, use crack on and do it. Boona and I will support you 100%. Like, you know,
Fuck that. I will support them, but I ain't playing that.
Yeah, but for me, I've got to go. Nah, I'm just taking a back seat. I can't.
Hey, I need
you know,
I need rest. My mind needs rest. I don't even know how people have been playing Champions. I've never played Champions League either. I just can't do that. One fantasy game's enough, honestly. I know some folk, and even then, I'm struggling.
Some people can balance everything though. Like some of the guys that we've got in Discord, they'll balance like 3 or 4 different fantasy games all at the same time. My head I'd be gone. So this season, as we're saying, Tom, it's been a bit of a weird one. We've got games on pretty much nearly every day of the week, and then look at Man United now. What is it? 3 games in 5 days, or 4 and a bit days. Yeah. As I said in the introduction, you have had a lot of 100k finishes. You have had a 3k finish. Okay, by your own admission, you might have slipped off a little bit over the last few years, but you certainly know what's, you know, kind of how to play the game. You know, let's be honest with each other. So for our viewers or anyone that's listening back via whatever they're listening it on, I don't even know what to say there. Spotify. What advice, what tips would you give the listeners in that, Tom, about the game we love to hate in FPL?
Do your own research, simply put. Like I like on my podcast to give both sides, or we like to give both sides the argument, but we very rarely say this is gospel truth. Like in FPL, like you can have lots of strong views, but you should probably hold them loosely, because like at one point, you know, you could be kind of sat there thinking, oh yeah, Lingard, right, he scored 1 goal, this will never last. You know, 5 games later, you're like idiot if you haven't jumped on that. And to be honest, you've got the moral high ground, but you know, you've lost all those points. So do your own research, maybe think for yourself as well, watch some football, integrate the two. Don't just think, oh, stats is one thing, eye test another. They both work together very, very well. Yeah. Lingard, again, used that example. The stats were crap, watch him play. Okay, but this guy needs to come in. Just do your own. You need to do your own work and not rely on others to tell you what you think is best. Ultimately, that's what's most satisfying when it comes off for you.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's the thing. Oh, sorry, Bruno.
Sorry, just on that note, on research, when you go to make your transfer decisions, then is there something that, you know, takes greater weighting over something else? For example, you know, do you have more of a reliance and focus on eye test over stats? Would you say one has greater bearing on your decision making?
No. I think that it's a very boring argument doing the eye test versus stats. I mean, you guys did the first year. This is my 4th year, and it's such a fucking boring argument. And it's going to happen next year as well, and the year after that. They both work together very well. Stats give you something objective. The eye test gives you something subjective. Put them together and come up with a good solution. So to be honest, both go well. If I can, I'll watch the player once or twice, as well as integrating that with the data. Look at something like XGI or something like that to give you an idea of how involved he is. Off you go. Very easy.
No, thank you for that. I think that's and as well, it's us that press the button. Like it's me that's going to take the -8 tomorrow, depending on what happens tonight. But I'll take that -8 and take it on the chin if it works, and I'll take it on the chin if it doesn't. You know, and I think that's because what we've seen as well, Tom, with when we've spoke to a lot of like our guests and previously, and it kind of becomes a bit apparent, is the kind of world that we're in is so fickle at times that if they're watching a podcast or if they're watching a live stream, whatever the case may be, and a player's name gets plucked and that player does nothing and that manager gets them in, oh, you know about it, and they get harangued for it, and you think, wait now, that's only one person giving their opinion or their stats, their views on a particular player. They're not forcing your hand to actually buy the player in or whatever. It's you that makes the decision. Don't
you
go
should see
blaming.
some of the shit people get. You should see some of the shit people get in their DMs that I've seen when they've suggested X or Y play and it doesn't pay off. It's ridiculous. I've had people say it to me. To be fair, it's funny.
Yeah, but then some of the
does that.
Yeah, but some of the commentary you give folk, Boona, I'd be giving you belters as
Me,
well.
I don't give people nothing. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Just a normal civilized bloke just enjoying his time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got, I can see the feed spitting away here at the right-hand side of my eyes, so I know the chat, Tom's got plenty of questions for you. As I was saying at the start, I know Boona has also got a good few that he's had over the last few days when people knew that you were coming in. We've only really got a couple of more that we like to kind of ask all managers. Boona, do you want to ask about the towers? And then I'll finish with the usual.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tom, if there was something that you could change about the game, what would it be and why, if at all?
Just greater transparency around two things: bonus points, transfers.
Okay.
So, price rises, that is. So put them online so everyone can see from an official source all the bonus points being kind of put into a table. They get them all from Opta, shove them all in, and explain what happens. Half of Twitter's conversations are gone. Second one's is like the price rises. Like every year, it's just very silly. Like where a player just suddenly refuses to fall despite having lost, like 30% of his ownership because they clearly think, we're not going to let him drop beneath this level.
Yeah.
It's not even foil hat stuff. It is like a little bit odd, and a few of the price changes people, not the racist ones, but the other ones will tell you that it is a bit dodgy. So putting those things like kind of just live and transparent would solve a lot of problems. But equally, the reason I don't do it is probably because it does generate a lot of discussion. So I can see why they don't do it. But that would probably be the one thing that I'd get them to do, just to be more transparent with those things.
No, perfect. Thank you very much for that. This one, Tom, is the final question kind of from us. And then, as I say, we'll dive into all the community stuff that we've been pinned our way. But for this one, Tom, you need to put yourself into the situation. So it's the final seconds of a Champions League final. You're through on goal and you're 1-on-1 with the keeper. You're just about to lace the ball with your boot when out the corner of your eye, you see your strike partner there. Now you know that if you pass to him, he's surely not going to miss, Tom, because it's an open goal. The keeper's 1-on-1 with you. However, Tom, it's you that's got the ball at your feet. So what are you doing? Are you smashing or passing?
I'm passing to Sterling, aren't I?
Well, this is it. We had this conversation. If Sterling was there...
Sterling, Jesus Christ! What the hell is wrong with you? I know you're not English, but if you watch the Croatia game, just pass the Sterling, Kate.
Exactly. I know. And
come on, it is who got the assist after all.
This is it. This is very true.
Caveat. Your strike partner is Nicholas Bentner.
Yeah, well, Nick. I mean, if Stevie did say he's not going to miss. Like if he's like 1 yard out, right? If it's Bentner and he's 10 yards out, then maybe I'll think again. But it depends how good I am.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for that. Boona, let's crack in then. Let's get into the community questions, and we'll get rattled through them.
Brilliant. A little bit tongue-in-cheek. We've sort of gone over it already, but we got to ask the question. We've got a question from FPL Plonker. Was Tom included in the £50 VIP pass as an expert to meet and greet? Because if people knew he was, I don't think anyone could argue the price.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd got all the VIP money, which is why it's such a shame that it's gone down. That's the reason I'm parodying it. I'm actually so annoyed that it's gone. Like I am the epitome of the "I'm fine" gif. That is I got the money through not being part of that.
Absolutely no sarcasm detected there. Question from one of our regulars as well, Paulie. This is a bit more team specific, Tom, if you don't mind.
Sure.
But a question asking, he's thinking to take Lingard out for the double and for the rest of the season. Lingard out for a mid, 7.6 is the budget he's got, who he'll have for the double and the rest of the season. That's kind of the main question there.
Okay. Right. All right. I'm not. I think in terms of who you're buying in, that's up to you. Taking Lingard out, I guess, is an interesting one. Like, I think he might have had his time now. I said this on the pod this week, so I'm just regurgitating myself. But at the end of the day, I think that whenever a player joins a squad or a new team, there's always like a kind of phase of, oh, hello, like this guy's now an unknown quantity, and I think that's what happened with Lingard. That obviously there's obviously the derision from being at United in the FPL community about him, or at least on my podcast about him. And I think the unknown quantity side of what he offered meant that he was able to kind of do what he did, as well as having that sort of individual sort of motivation you could see within how he was performing. But I think now we've got to the point where managers are kind of picking up on the fact that he is obviously very vital to West Ham doing anything. And he and Antonio, I noticed on the last game, were swapped. So Antonio became the kind of the foil, and Lingard was the main kind of attacking thrust. I think now Moyes has gone the opposite and gone, well, now people are going to be looking at Lingard. That gives the likes of, of the likes of Antonio to, the opportunity to do something, like Ben Rama's do something. So I wouldn't mind at all selling Lingard. Actually, he was very high on my list to actually be sold this week, but other things have happened.
That's why I did that this week.
Yeah, I'd do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Natasha's chuffed, by the way, Buna. I just thought I'd let you know. I'm glad Buna's looking after Zaha's groin, because I've brought him in for a -4 this week. So we'll see how.
So have I. For Lingard.
Yeah, we'll see how Zaha gets on. Sparta's got a couple of questions here for you, Tom. He has got one that I know, Buna, he sent over to yourself.
Yeah.
Most hits you've ever taken in a particular game week?
I think I've taken a -16 before. I think that was when I had like multiple. That was a few years ago. I had multiple injuries.
Okay.
Normally, I kind of stop it at -8 if I'm kind of making a big change. I don't think I've ever gone beyond. I don't think I've gone beyond that. No, I think when I went to Australia, I did the -12 actually, because I was anticipating I wouldn't be able to look at my team for a little while. But it didn't quite pan out that way.
Okay. And you're not. I take it you're not just on that, and this kind of runs separately a little bit, I suppose. But you're not adverse to a hit then, because that's another thing that you'll see are, people telling you not to do it and blah 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 and all the rest of it. And as we say, just play the game the way you want to play it with a smile on your face. But yeah, would you be a kind of advocate of that? If you need to hit or want to hit, take it.
I've taken -80 points in hits this year, and I'm 300k. So what does that tell you? It probably tells you that you should probably be more careful with your hits. Look, like every hit, you need 7 points from the person you're bringing in to profit. So that means that the person you've sold, assuming they start and it's not an enforced hit, the person you have sold, they start to get 2 points. Then you add the -4 on, so they kind of get 6.
Yeah.
So you need whoever you bring in to get 7 to overall. Actually, FPL is normally fairly low scoring. So the chances of you actually getting a 7 from who you bring in, unless it's kind of a no-brainer, I think on balance are actually fairly low. So there's always a gamble about it, and being kind of primed with your gambles is probably the best thing to do. Am I good at doing this? No, I shouldn't gamble. I shouldn't ever gamble. I should play very boringly and play very safely. But you know what? I like having fun with it, or at least I like the kind of the hope that always comes before the crashing defeat. So there you go.
Did you see one? Oh, sorry, Bernard.
Would you not say that a hit paying off doesn't necessarily, have to be measured over that particular game week though, and can be addressed over 2 or 3?
Yeah, it can be, but that's not. I guess that's not how the ranking system works, is it? So like week to week, the way you look at things tends to be immediate. There's obviously like the idea that you're using that the facility to take a hit, unlike in the Sky game. The reason it's there is because you're able to kind of either add more to that week. Like you'd never take a hit this week for something in 2 weeks' time, would you? Unless it's like a blank or double. Like you wouldn't
of course.
Somebody who's got a blank in this week thinking, oh, but in 2 weeks he's got double. So that's not how it works. So I think that's kind of overlaying some sort of a false analysis on it to try to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
It's just like the stats gurus, isn't it? Kind of showing one side of the story.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I love stats, but I find that hilarious. Like expected rank, this makes me laugh so much. That's like if I played FPL on fucking story mode, like if I was able to kill everything with
Story
one
mode.
hit, if I was just headshotting every shot, the gun went headshot every single time. This is how well I'd be. I'd be the fucking top Call of Duty player in the world if I shot everything perfectly. Like, that's what expected rank is to me.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's very different to that. It
That's a
makes
good
me
way.
laugh.
I've never thought of it like that, but that's a good way of looking at it. I don't know. Did you see Buna or Tom? Did you see there was I can't even remember, and it's bad. The guy that tweeted just on Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it was, that he took a -24 of this season instead of playing his wild card, and he got up and he basically went up something like 700k places 2 weeks later, and while still having his wild card in his hand. So that, I suppose, gives. I think this was right at the start of the season, so it's probably the best time to kind of do something like that. But yeah, I suppose it shows you. The other one that Sparta's talking about, Buna, in the chat here, is, well, kind of what we're, I suppose, leading off from where we are. Is the Man United triple game week, is that a trap, Tom, this week? Like, I know we hinted on it earlier.
It's a good question to ask Tom, actually, because we were having this conversation, which was quite interesting. Some of the insight Tom had on this.
I mean, I think you've got to be a certain type of manager to see that it's triple game week and think, nah, I'm not interested. Like, really? Really? Like, come on. Okay, that's a very basic answer, but that's kind of true. They aren't the best games, and there's also kind of a rumbling that obviously one of the home games may be disrupted. So, and they are home games against Leicester and Liverpool. So Aston Villa, Leicester, and Liverpool. Is that the best triple game week we've ever seen? Absolutely not. Would that be a double game week I'd be interested in as much? Again, probably not. But because you've got 3 bites at the cherry, like, it's very hard to think about that as not being something that's not of an opportunity. I mean, it's United, I guess, would still have a sense of motivation about them, but I think that the Leicester game particularly, you've got to look at that and think, wow, okay, how are they going? Who's going to play that? Probably Maguire plus maybe Bruno, and then the rotated 11. So there's definitely going to be some shocks, and you're definitely going to probably see, some things not going your way. I think that United would. Like, there was a big movement to sell Bruno 2 weeks ago, for example. And he's now been kind of puffed up as being one of the best players we've ever seen, and people suddenly remembering the good about him. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, people were saying, "Well, he's only got a goal and assist in the last 6, so he's a pile of shit. Let's get rid of him for someone else." Like, as you said earlier, people are very fickle, and there's a triple game in front of you. Like, so is it that hindsight will tell? The odds are that if you get a player who comes in, does a job for you out of 2 of the 3 games, then you'll probably do okay. Like, I think Bruno, Maguire, /AWB, and probably Greenwood would probably be the 3 that I'd be really interested in. I will own, like, incredibly enough.
Okay.
So don't follow me because I'm going to do shit.
Well, listen, Buna and I are behind you in the ranks this year, so
way behind. Way behind.
What I was going to say, I'm happy to reveal all, right? Buna knows that's the type of person that I am. I've got Bruno in my team just now. As a Man United supporter, depending on what happens tonight, I think the only other person I'm interested in getting in is probably Greenwood, because I think he'll get, whether he gets full 90 minutes or he comes on for the last kind of half an hour or whatever. I think, I know what I'm going to get with Greenwood, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. As for captaincy, I think I'll probably end up with it on Salah, because I do think Bruno may be rested at some point. And I just think the armband is suited over that side. That's probably where I think I'm going to go with it.
Can you imagine that the Man United Liverpool game gets
called off again? Yeah.
Well, I know.
That alone puts me off captaining Salah, and also with the slight chance that, well, not a slight chance, there's a good chance you'd imagine that United rest some of their bigger assets for the Leicester game. It really does attract me towards captaining Jamie Vardy, to be honest. I think Well, I've got him, Andy, and Nacho, but I'm trying to catch up ranks, so I fancy Vardy for that.
Yeah, between him and between Nacho and Maguire for me, I think, because Maguire's top of shots in the box for defenders this year, and top for headed chances over the course of this year. But his non-pen XG is 2, and his goal scored is 2. So it just shows he's getting crap attempts when he does take attempts.
Yeah.
But you could get lucky. You could get a lovely 15-pointer, which would be, if I captain Maguire, what I'd be hoping for. But if not, Nacho looks the safe one, doesn't he? Because he's got Newcastle and a depleted United, or Vardy has the same situation, of course. And if you go for a United player, you may see that Liverpool game be postponed again. If same situation as last year, just arrived, right? So maybe the safe pick is to go with Nacho, actually. Interesting one. I'm between Maguire and Nacho. There's no way I'm captain Bruno at my rank. There's no point.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I was kind of, I suppose, as I say, I don't even know where we are at now, Boona, 500k-ish, there or thereabouts, maybe more, but yeah,
I'm 600.
Well, I'm right next to you, aren't I? So there or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been tempted as well to bring in Maguire or Greenwood for an additional hit, but it would mean benching Son. I don't like that. No. I feel like Son could do quite well against Leeds, and he did so in the reverse.
So this is what we were saying. Sometimes we get ourselves, or I say we, I don't mean everybody, but we can sometimes get into that horse with blinker mentality. It's a double, it's a treble. For all we know, Kane
doubles this season have backfired. They're not not gone well.
Kane could go out and bag 4 goals against Leeds. We know how open that game could be. So I think that's the thing that people kind of move at. FPL Safer in the chat, Tom. Who's the most maverick FPL player in the Who Got the Assist team? Have you got any good examples?
It depends if you mean maverick as in doing well, or maverick as in trying to do something out of the ordinary and just doing utter shit. Because
okay,
then it's me doing things like captaining Vardy away at Liverpool, or captaining Trent and stuff like that. If you mean kind of maverick as in not in a quite boring way, so not playing his chips until after everybody else, and taking -8s for boring to buy the template so he does better, that's probably Anthony. It used to be Nick, but Nick kind of plays quite a boring kind of Joe from Advanced Football Scout-esque sort of game. Anthony's very good at kind of taking risks which are boring looking risks, but well kind of games playing good risks, if that makes sense.
It was quite interesting. I don't know what your views would be on it. Mark and Az, when they were on Tuesday, Tom, one of the, when we asked you the question, if you could change anything about FPL, would you, and what would it be, kind of thing. One of the things that I think it was Az that brought it up was, having the same chips to use in the first half of the season, and basically get double the chips, because I've certainly found this, that in the last season or two, this year and last year, as soon as the chips are there, you can get into that mentality of just leaving them to like the tail end of the season. Whereas if you had them in the first half as well, like obviously before Christmas, would that liven it up a little bit?
Sure. I think what might actually be more fun, which they never do because it's too complicated for beginners, is have a menu of things. So say you had 5 potential chips that you could use throughout the course of the season. I don't mean wildcard, and wildcard's another thing that's not a chip.
Right.
But 5 potential ones you could use, but you could only use 3. I think that could be really interesting.
Oh
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
That's one that I really like the idea of. Are you guys familiar with RNG, random number generation in games? Yeah. So that decides kind of how many hit points you take when you get hit, or when you shoot, when you kind of attack someone, how many hit points you hit for.
Yeah.
So a weapon can do between 8 and 10 damage. So it's RNG work, I guess.
Yep.
If you add more randomness to FPL, I think it actually is a bit alienating as well, which I think is what Triple Captain particularly can be like. Because I think the captaincy chip has such an outsized impact on how we perform. I wonder whether I like the fact that it's kind of quite a considered move to use your chips at a particular point in the season. I think you can be a bit salty if it doesn't go off for you, and maybe that's where some of that comes from. But really, like I don't know, I wouldn't want there to be more randomness added in, if that makes sense. I would want people to be more strategic about it, but I mean, it's quite a simple game. Like, I think that adding layers and layers and layers onto it just might detract from what it is, and before you know it, you're playing Sky, which I do play, but that's a different game completely. So
See, I've never looked at it. I don't know if you have, Boona, playing fantasy on Sky, but I have heard that it is completely different.
Yeah.
No, but what I have looked at is the chat, and apparently Bruno and Shaw aren't starting tonight. I haven't seen that posted on Twitter myself.
Okay.
But, I'm sure the chat wouldn't be chatting shit. They tend not to.
Wouldn't it be like the chat to make
Not
something
this one,
up?
anyway.
Yeah. Team, have you seen Team's question? It's directed at Tom, but I think it's aimed at you, Boona. Serious question serious question for Tom. What would you say to someone who captained Sterling 3 or more times this season?
God, I don't know. I might have actually. I might have captained him a few times. Have I? He's definitely been a really interesting case study this year of a player who's just completely fallen off, hasn't he? I don't know what it is this season. Well, I do know what it. Well, I've got an idea of what it is, so I'm not going to bore you with that analysis. But he's definitely been one of those players who's been a huge disappointment. Been in the 200 club for the last few years and just completely fallen off this year. I'd say a lot of the time he was a low percentage owned differential who's explosive. So I think just unlucky that he chose to be. Well, he didn't choose to be for the day. He was crap on the day, basically.
Yeah.
I captained him for that double game week. When everyone else captained somebody else, I captained for that double game week, and he got an assist when Gundogan scored that brace and got 17 points. I got a brace. I got an assist and appearance, and he missed like a fairly clear chance towards the end of the first game.
That may be the game where I triple captained Gundogan and got 57 points.
That's the same game, yeah.
The rest of my team was shite, by the way, but I nailed down my triple captaincy pick.
That's always good.
Thank you to Zoff from the FPL Wire, who's in the chat with some really kind words.
Cool.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
No, thank you very much for that, Soft. GK16, question for Tom. As a stats-based podcast, do you think the FPL community analyse data well, or do you find managers just use selective data to justify their decisions?
Kind of gone. This is an interesting one.
The B completely. Like everybody, I think that you always kind of have an opinion, and I'm not saying that I'm immune from this. I'm only human as well. But you always have an opinion, and I think you will always use confirmation bias to. Confirmation bias works in two ways. The first way is you find stats which back up what you've got to say. The other way, which is kind of a bit more understated and not as well known, is that you kind of get rid of things or you dismiss things that don't suit your kind of your analysis.
Okay.
I think I see that everywhere, and I see professionally a lot of the things that I see presented as data analysis. If I did that, I'd be sacked. Frankly, loads of it is just so poor. But that's fine. I mean, as long as people are having fun, I'm completely happy for that. But I to be honest with you, there are a few kind of people that I would trust to analyze things, and I take something from what they've said in terms of their analysis. They're pretty obvious if you look at my timeline who those people are.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I just ignore people's analysis because I just think it's crap, frankly. Just because anyone can open some tables and have a look, but to be able to interact with the data and can't bring up something which is actually genuinely insightful is a completely different skill entirely. Being able to say he's got 5 goals in the last 5 games, therefore he is good, mate. That doesn't do anything for me. That's just bland crap, that you can get on official channels.
I'm just gonna.
I think it's easily done as well. You're not taking into consideration stats like, well, okay, the next 2 opponents have the best defense in the last 5 games. Information like that is easily, missed out. Sometimes deliberately. Well, a lot of the times deliberately so.
I mean, that's
even earlier on today, I was going to post out. I was trying to find stats which supported my claim that maybe going for Bruno in this double game week wasn't such a great decision because of his record or United's record against these 3 teams in the past 2 seasons. And I quickly saw actually it's pretty good, so I put my pen down at that stage.
But I think that's the other thing, though, and I don't, there's ways about it, Boona, that you could put a stat out there and convince anybody that it was gospel, and it could just be pure bollocks,
Why we find the world that we're living in at the moment, because people aren't very good at thinking critically. But that's a completely different question for each different time.
No. Tommy Tom in the chat, good evening to you. If you want a good rank, play Scottish fantasy football. There's only about 45,000 folk playing it. Nice one, Tommy. I shall have a look at that. Bruno, what else has been coming into your inbox for Tom?
I think we've covered the main theme of the questions from WhatsApp and Twitter, unless you can see any ones that I've not kind of gone over. But I was going to refer back to the chat and go through some of the questions, if that's all right.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Brilliant. So we've kind of gone through a lot of these questions. So I'm doing this just kind of picking some questions out. I think you've gone through quite a few of these questions, though, Lama. I'm like halfway.
I mean, I think
up.
the only other one that I've seen, but Tom's definitely touched on it and kind of answered the Mel's question, was just how long have they been playing FPL? How long's Tom been playing? And any advice? But you covered that very well, Tom. Advice for newcomers. Just take your time, enjoy it, make your own decisions, and try not to get consumed.
Question from Tim then, with only 3 weeks left to go, who's your favourite punt for the rest of the season?
Oh, who are you punting on?
Who am I punting on? I'm punting on anybody playing Sheffield United. So, game week 36, is it Dominic Calvert-Lewin home against Sheffield?
I was thinking to double up on that attack, to be honest.
Yeah, or maybe Richarlison that week. He was really disappointing at the start of the season, so less interested. All right, maybe I'm not going to be sat there buying Callum Wilson in the game week 37, but strange things have happened. Maybe I'm not going to be buying Crispin in game week 38. But I think the captaincy is where I'm going to be taking my punts this year as a bit of a cop-out answer. Not one particular player, but last 4 weeks, I'm basically looking at the polls. Who's everyone captaining? Right, I'm not captaining that guy. Simple as that.
Me too.
Nice one. I'm just flicking my way down here. Yeah, Tim. Best reason not to own Bruno is because the 300,000 EO that he's going to have. Exciting opportunity, Tom. That's what I like to call it. Not effective ownership. It's an exciting opportunity to do something different. That's how I look at it. Molina's not happy.
A bit of a worry in the ranks now for holding owners as he's playing tonight.
I've got Holden. So
unlucky. Are you bench boosting?
No. It's like what Tommy said in the chat there. I don't know if you've seen it. In Scotland, we love chips. We have them eaten at the start of the season, and that probably sums it up about right. No, thank you very much for that, Tom. Much appreciated. Obviously having you on this week ahead. Are you keeping your cards close to your chest, or have you got any tips for us? Tips for the chat?
Not really. I mean, I've said that it's probably not the best double game week in the world. But equally, I'd be very surprised if you were able to overlook the fact that it's triple game week. So don't get too hung up. Don't overthink it. If you are doing well, just captain Bruno. Don't be an idiot. If you aren't doing very well, maybe look elsewhere. But I mean, I'm hoping that it's going to be a good one rather than a stamp squib where the average is about 60 and we're all pissed off. Loads of our players have all been rotated.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much for that. But not anything else you want to cover off this evening, pal? Again, Tom, I don't know what happens, right? And I do know what happens. It's people like you coming on, as we've had in the last other 37 episodes, but time just flies in. That's over an hour already, again. So, Tom, much appreciated you coming in this evening, and thank you very much. Now, just in case no one knows who got the assist or anything like that, I'd be very surprised, Tom. But just in case they didn't, where can they find you and the boys? Pimp yourself out, so our listeners or viewers can all, cram over and say hello to you.
All right. I'm at WGTA_FPL on Twitter. I think Nick's at WGTA_Nick and Anthony's at FPL Stag. We're on all listening platforms. I've got a YouTube, but we don't do any video at the moment. Probably should in the future, but I'm just too fucking lazy, to be honest. But if you're on my Twitter, it's mostly just commenting on the meta of FPL, frankly, rather than any kind of stats advice. That's where the podcast comes in. So yeah. But hopefully, come and find me. If you want to speak to me, I'll speak to you. I'm not one of these people who's just like, no, I only speak to follow accounts who've only got over 10k people. Just be nice, just be respectful. Otherwise, I'll meet you straight away.
No, definitely.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for that. Buna, again, we'll get you to wrap things up, pal, if you want. Do you know what we forgot to do, and we keep forgetting all the time? To the people in the chat that are listening just now, or if you're watching it back, whatever you might be doing, please give us a little like. It's much appreciated. And get into the comments, anyone that we've not had on. Have a look at the other 37 guests that we've had on, 38 being Tom this evening. And then if there's someone missing out of there that you want us to get in, let us know. So drop it in the comments below. As I say, leave a like on tonight's show. It's much appreciated. And if you aren't subscribed already, Tom, unbelievable, right? Last week, you know we're just a new podcast and we're just trying to grow organically, naturally, and just be relaxed, as we were saying at the start before we went live. 140 subscriptions we picked up in 2 days. So, you know, to the folk out there, thank you very much for that. It's much appreciated. And we'll just keep doing what we're doing. Like what we said, Tom, as long as we're smiling and enjoying ourselves, we will keep producing content.
Good.
No, nice one. Buna, over to you, young man.
Yeah, brilliant. Just before I wrap up, the team's out. Thanks to Zofa for putting that out. So we've got De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Bailly, Maguire, Luke Shaw does start, Van der Beek, Greenwood, Bruno Fernandes starts, Pogba and Cavani. So Rashford doesn't get a start. I don't know if he's on the bench. I don't know if he's injured. I presume he's on the bench. That's quite an interesting one. But any initial thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Well, for me, I think Rashford's carrying... I don't know if he's carrying a back injury or what the script is, but he was a player that I wouldn't have touched for a triple game week because I knew he would be definitely missing something somewhere, just because I think he has got a niggle. Bit surprising. Good to see Van der Beek. You know, he's not had much chance at all this season, has he?
Yeah. So
we'll see what happens this evening. I told you this last night on Discord. I'm not even convinced, because if Ollie goes out right and plays the way he can do, which is defensive, we could be picking 3-0 down in 40 minutes, because that's just the way United seem to roll at times. Hopefully not, but it wouldn't surprise me. So I'm not even counting my chickens that were through even at 6-2, because we all know what Man United should be like.
God's sake.
You'd like to think so, but hey. Don't come back to me later on.
Fan, mate.
Don't come back to me this evening if Man United end up getting papped out.
I've seen that team. But anyway, on that note, yeah, thanks for joining us today, Tom. Really, really appreciate that, pal. And thank you for everyone else that's joined us in the chat as well. If you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed what you've listened to today, please do consider liking and hitting that subscribe button. Our special guest next week, if I'm not mistaken, Llama, is Adam Hopcroft.
It is.
So that should be yet another interesting stream. Otherwise, all the best and good luck for game week 35, guys. Take care.
Nice one. Take care, folks. Cheers.
I found some better sounds no one's ever heard. I wish I had a better voice that sang some better words. I wish I found some chords in an order that is new. I wish I